All right, it is officially the off season for your Detroit Lions, and we're going to be talking about a very quick topic here. We'll be in and out here in just a few moments. Let's talk about fifth-year options for a couple of players that were drafted in the 2022 draft class, and that is Aidan Hutchinson and Jameson Williams. So a few things to discuss here and kind of how this works. That's what this video is all about, how it works, what's going to happen, how much are these guys about to get paid, what is that going to do to the roster, and what are the Lions going to do prior to, the vet process, right? What are they going to do when vetting all of this out to make sure that both of these gentlemen are great fits for the Lions organization, not only now, but in a couple of years, which I actually expect them to not blink an eye here. But let's talk about it, okay? Fifth-year options. What does it mean? What's going to happen? So the NFL has a standard for deciding the value of these fifth-year options as they are largely decided by playing time and performance benchmarks, among many other things. Now, these salaries would be in effect for the 2026 season. So they don't hit 25, even though you have to pick up the fifth-year option by May 1st of 2025. They don't take effect until 2026. Now, with the 25 season being the last year of the player's 4-year base rookie deal, all teams have to negotiate a fifth-year option. There's really not much for negotiations, kind of a set price, actually. Wrong word to use. But in a nutshell here, the reason why we're talking fifth-year option and not extension. Uh-oh, we got hot news. We'll come back to that in a moment. But the reason why we're talking, fifth year and not extension is because, Aidan Hutchinson is battling a major injury. He's yet to make the field again. So, and Jameson Williams, I don't think they're quite ready to give him an extension. That's just my personal opinion. I think they're going to hold out with the fifth-year option, make sure that he proves it, again, one more season before they extend him finally. So players who have reached multiple Pro Bowls is one way that their salary is affected in the fifth-year option. Now, coming from way of over the cap, there's a very definitive formula for this. So, number one, basic. Players who do not meet any of the requirements below will be eligible for a fifth-year base salary calculated from the average of the 3rd to the 25th highest salaries at their position. So from the 3rd highest to the 25th highest salary at their position, that's how it's calculated on an average. They also look at play time. So these players will be eligible for a fifth-year base salary calculated from the average, right? We're just going to call it the fifth-year salary. And it's based on playing time of the 3rd to the 20th highest salaries at their position over the past 5 seasons. So it's not just this year. It does go back 5 seasons, which honestly helps teams because otherwise these contracts would be huge. So it's 75% or greater in 2 of their first 3 seasons, an average of 75% or greater over all 3 seasons, or 50% or greater over all the 3 seasons. And that is provided that their snap counts over their first 3 seasons meet one of those following criteria, that they're playing at least 75% or greater in 2 of their 3 seasons, or 75% or greater in all of their seasons, or 50% or greater in all 3 seasons. So minimum threshold, 50% or greater snap load. Honestly, I have not figured out Jameson snap count because that one's a little interesting. He may not qualify. Hell, Aidan may not qualify, to be honest with you. If you think about it, maybe when you average it all out, it would probably average out because he played about 100% of snaps, it seemed like. At least 90% of snaps through the first 2 seasons. So, also, if they make a Pro Bowl, that gives them a kicker. They get a bonus. If they make multiple Pro Bowls, of course, that gives them even more of a kicker, and they get a bonus. So that's the nuts and the bolts to it. It's based on play time. It's based on Pro Bowls. It's based on, things like that. And for players who do not reach a Pro Bowl within their first 3 campaigns, there are 2 separate ways to determine the value of their fifth-year options. And it's players who, like I just mentioned, have to meet that minimum threshold of snap counts. So here's what I would think that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell are going to evaluate. If it were me sitting in the armchair there as a GM, these things make sense. Now, this information is not readily available. I put a lot of this together to kind of give you an idea of maybe what Brad Holmes is going to look at for these guys. So, number one, I mean, every team's going to look at performance, right? They're going to assess the player's on-field performance, including statistics, impact on the games, and overall contribution to the team. And then you have to look at things like injury history. Of course, they're going to look at a player's injury history and durability. As consistent availability is crucial, right? The best ability is availability. And then potential. Has this player kind of gotten off to a slow start? Did they hit the ground running in year 3 and you finally seen something out of them? So they're going to evaluate the player's potential for growth and improvement within the systems or fit with the team. Did they draft the right player? And did that individual turn out to be a great fit? And maybe he wasn't a great fit in the beginning. Is he a great fit now? Of course, they're going to look at that. And we know that quality of fit, as far as the type of culture and identity that this team has for the Detroit Lions, that's a big one, is the fit to this team. Matter of fact, Dan Campbell just mentioned at the podium the other day that exact thing. The players they bring in have to fit. Next up, positional value. Some positions are considered more valuable or more important than others. For example, quarterbacks, pass rushers, left tackles generally have the highest value, positional value placed upon their head. And then next up, replacement availability. Just like positional value, how easy is it for me to replace you? Or said another way, how hard or how difficult is it to replace you in your production? So the ease or the difficulty in finding a suitable replacement obviously is going to weigh into this. And then you have market trends. They might analyze current market trends, salary cap implications, work ethic, not work ethic, salary cap implications, and the cost of certain positions as they can fluctuate from year to year. Next up is players' attitude and work ethic. Obviously, a player's commitment to themselves, right, to the team, their attitude towards training and improvement, all of their work ethic and are very crucial determinant factors in their long-term value to the team. Are they willing to put the extra work in? Amon-Ra catches 202 every day. That's some pretty crazy work ethic. You want those guys around. How about coaching staff input? Clearly, you're going to have feedback from everybody, but feedback from the positional coaches on that individual player. How did they perform? Did they perform, better or worse than what you expected? Did they listen? Did they try? Did they make changes? Did they adapt? What are these coaches going to say about that player? And then lastly, long-term team strategy. So from year to year, you might have coaches, that are getting swapped out. We're going through it this season. We're losing some pretty damn good coaches. So what is that long-term strategy now? Is that player going to fit into the defensive or offensive scheme that you're now going to go forward with? That's obviously a big key to this. So let's talk about JMO for just a moment. When we evaluate a player for a fifth-year option, or when I would, or if I had to ever do it, those defined assessments are key. And I think that each coach, each general manager, they're going to go through it a little bit differently. I think that what these are for each team, I'm sure are different and also the same. I can only imagine, though, that each of those teams' processes are going to include, those 10 points that I just went through. So Jameson Williams, he had his fair share of off-field issues, right? He had the gambling. He was suspended for gambling, the PED issue. And then he had a run-in with police. And that was just this last season where, they found a gun in the car with his brother. Thankfully, people had level heads in the police department and no charges were filed, even though it was a concealed weapon that, kind of broke the law. Better heads prevailed in this one. So thankfully, JMO didn't get in any trouble for this. But I would say that all of these things kind of, they're churning in a coach's brain, right? They're churning in a GM's brain. How many penalties did you get on the field? How many after the whistle penalties did you get? Are you doing some stuff that's just extra? Throwing a ball in somebody's face. All of that stuff is going to weigh on the mind of Brad Holmes. I'm about to give this dude, $15, $16 million. Is it worth it? Is it worth it for the play that he's given us on the field? And is he going to be able to stay on the field and not get into trouble like the gambling PED stuff? Jamo's done an excellent job this year. He has really turned a major corner. And I think that, the sky's the limit for him athletically, obviously as a player. And I think that his maturity is going to follow right behind it. And I think that Jamo's going to be a great fit for this team moving forward. Really would love to see him get his fifth-year option, which I don't think there's any reason you wouldn't at this point. He really became a very dynamic element after leaving Alabama, a little bit raw, right? Needed some help in the route running, among other things. But his patience and his willingness to learn, I think, is helping him to reach his full potential. And I said helping him to reach it. He hasn't reached it yet. Jamo has just scratched the surface. And you can see it. You can see the raw ability in this kid that he's got a long way to go. And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. I think that his ability is going to continue to rise. You give him another 2 seasons, he might be the best wide receiver in the NFL at some point. The fact that he's just one play away from the end zone is just fun to watch. Now, this season, he did make Pro Bowl, didn't make an All-Pro. So obviously those things are not going to have to weigh in onto the decision. But he did gain plenty of yards after the catch this season. He eclipsed 1,000 yards. I think he had just under 50 receptions this year. I think he was like 49 for, a little over 1,000 yards this season. Really nice to see what he was able to do. So when we talk about numbers, we'll talk about that in just a moment. Next up is the guy called Aidan Hutchinson. Just an absolute animal of a player. Just an absolutely amazing human being on and off the field. Traumatic injury in 2024. Traumatic. Very tough to watch. A lot of us were hoping that, he would get healthy and have an opportunity to come back this season. I myself felt it would have been best for him just to wait. We don't want to see this guy injure himself. Well, we didn't get the opportunity to see it. So Hutchinson obviously has been everything that you want in a pass rusher, everything that you want in a human being, everything that you want in a teammate. He's averaging 10.5 sacks over his first 2 seasons. He earned a Pro Bowl nod in 2023. And man, was he on pace to shatter all of the figures that he already put up through his career in 2024. And then obviously the broken tibia and fibula ended his season. And just gruesome to watch, right? Just painful. But looking ahead to this offseason, he's going to get healthy. The Lions obviously will they won't bat an eye at this. They're going to make him one of the highest paid edge rushers when he gets there. I don't think Aidan's going to get an extension this year. I think that they're going to pick up the 5th year. And I think that the reason is they're going to need to make sure that he can play the game the way that he did before. They're going to have to exercise some caution, and they're going to have to show, Aidan's going to have to show a tremendous amount of ability when he is fully healthy. The Lions will undoubtedly require physicals and workouts prior to an extension. I don't think that they're going to do it prior to the 5th-year option, but they might. They might. The 5th-year option is not due till May 1st of 2025. So there's plenty of time. That is plenty of time for Aidan to get fully healthy, right? If they were expecting him to be back in February, clearly he can get back in May. So for Aidan Hutchinson, I think it's going to be a 5th-year option. I don't think it's going to be an extension. But let's take a look at what this 5th-year option looks like. All right, so right here at the very top, you can see Aidan Hutchinson, taken number 2 overall in the 2022 draft. So had he just had basic elevation of the 5th-year option, it would have been $14.737 million. If he just hit the play time, it would have been $16.06. But because he hit those first 2 and made a Pro Bowl, this dude got a $6 million bump, $6.6 million bump. So $22.612 million is going to be his guaranteed 5th-year option. So the Lions are going to be paying him, I think, roughly $25 million over his first 4 years. He's going to get an extra $22 million in his 5th year. Now, what I'm expecting is in the 4th year, he's going to have an amazing season, and they're going to extend him. And so this 5th-year option is going to be meaningless. It's just a placeholder, I think, for Aidan. I don't think that the Lions are not going to do it. I think it's just a placeholder for Aidan. it only makes sense, right? And then JMO, you skip down to number 12 here. We got Jameson Williams. Well, he hasn't hit anything but basic. So he's going to get a $15.161 million bump into his 2026 pay scale. So that's what your fifth year options are looking like. And that's what we're expecting to happen. I'm not expecting extensions. I'm expecting fifth year options for both of these players. Look forward to them in 2025. Look forward to this next season. I tell you what, man, free agency can't come soon enough. We'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Detroit!